Ikhwan fikum, that by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, here we are, and we're seeing, Ikhwan, numbers from brothers from different cities, states, counties, and even countries, coming together for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Coming together, Ikhwan, upon the book of Allah, upon the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the methodology of the Salaf al-Salih. And it is a beautiful thing, Ikhwan, to have this love for one another. And I've mentioned before that this is from the affairs of Imān. As Shaykh Ahmed Najmi, he mentions, Ikhwan, in his explanation of Kitab al-Sunnah from the Sunnah of Abi Dawood, he mentions, Ikhwan, that loving for the sake of Allah and hating for the sake of Allah is from Imān, and from that which completes Imān. And what Shaykh Ahmed Najmi, he said, Ikhwan, is that therefore, if you heard about a Salafi, a Sunni, in some distant land, someone that you have never met before, someone that you have no contact with, physical contact with, maybe don't have any contact with them whatsoever, there is no mutual benefit between you. That person hasn't done anything for you financially or otherwise. But you know that that person is a person of the sunnah, so you love them for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Shaykh said that is from the affairs of Imān. And likewise, he says, that if you hear of a mubtadi', of an innovator, somewhere, whether that person be your near neighbor, your close kinfolk, somebody who's close to you in relation, could be your blood brother, your twin, but they are an enemy to the sunnah and the people of the sunnah, he said that you hate them for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is from the affairs of Imān. Now, along with that loving and hating, Ikhwan, comes with uniting upon that love for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that unity upon love for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and separating upon that hatred. And the Shaykh, he mentions, Ikhwan, that it is not enough to simply just distance yourself from them. You have to hate them. Not enough to just hate them, you have to distance yourself from them. These things go hand in hand. And likewise with the people of Sunnah, Ikhwan, you naturally incline towards the people of Sunnah. It's a natural affair. What do we find in the narration? Al-arwah junudun mujannada. The souls are like mobilizing troops, gathering armies, right? Like souls attract. And so we have the narration, Ikhwan, that if there is a place, a masjid, for example, and in that place there are 99 munafiqeen, 99 hypocrites, and one believer, and a believer walks in, he's going to find that believer. He's going to incline towards that believer. And on the flip side, if there are 99 believers and one hypocrite, and the hypocrite walks in, he's going to find his way to that hypocrite. That is the affair that we have learned. That is the sunnah. That is what we find in the Quran, ya Ikhwan. So when I hear people make statements, Ikhwan, and it breaks the heart, I don't have to be down with Spubs, or I don't have to be down with Germantown to be upon the sunnah. What does that even mean? If you're with the Salafis, you're with the Salafis wherever they are on the earth. Whether they're in China, whether they're in Yemen, whether they're in Russia, whether they're in England, whether they're in United, wherever they are on the earth, you're with them. And that includes your brothers from Spubs and your brothers from Germantown. It includes them. So why do you make it some point that you have to try to say, whether some kind of point of clarification, I don't got to be with them to be upon the sunnah. Ikhwan, somebody came here right now, and they said to you, I don't got to be with Imam Ahmad to be upon the sunnah. Now, understand what I mean by this. I'm not comparing us with the great Imam of Ahlul Sunnah. I'm talking now about that affair of uniting upon love for the sunnah and the people of sunnah and separating from the people of innovation, hatred for the people of innovation. You would say to yourself, why in the world would you even make a statement like that? What is the benefit? What is the draw of a statement like that to say, I don't have to be with them to be upon the sunnah? Being upon the sunnah means you love the people of sunnah and unite with the people of sunnah wherever they are and whoever they are. And so we say, Ikhwan, in this regard, that it is a matter of love for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and loving the people of the sunnah. And it's a matter of hating the people of innovation and separating from them. And if you say, for example, that your brothers have akhta' wa taqsirat, then tayyib, then advise for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ad-din al-nasiha. The religion is sincerity, sincere advice. Advise for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this stance is a strange stance. It is a strange stance that you're going out of your way to free yourself, and this is what you're saying in some context. You're going out of your way to say, I don't got to be with them. We with the Salafis wherever they are on the earth. The Salafis, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. The people of the Sunnah, the people upon the methodology of the Messenger of Allah and his noble companions and the Tabi'een with Ba'at Tabi'een, and upon the methodology of the likes of Imam Mālik and the likes of Sa'id al-Musayyib and the likes of Ahmad ibn Hanbal and the likes of Sufyan al-Thawri and the likes of Imam al-Bukhari, Imam Muslim, al-Mubarak 40, and to this day of our Shaykh Rabi', Shaykh Ubaid, Shaykh Muqbil, Shaykh Abdul Muhsin, Shaykh al-Fawzan. We're upon that methodology, ikhwan fikum. And we are with those who are upon that methodology. We love them for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We hold them up and we put our hands in their hands. Because that is, ikhwan, love for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I say to you, ikhwan, refrain from the likes of these statements. And say that you are with the Salafis wherever they are and whoever they are in the earth. And that you love them for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether you know, have ever met them, have ever seen them, have no connection to them, physically or otherwise, but you love them because of their connection of the sunnah and salafiyah. I love it. So I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity for us to come together again. And may we continue to love each other for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and remain steadfast upon the sunnah. Holding on to one another, ikhwan, holding on to one another. This is what we learned from our Shaykh. This is what we learn from Shaykh Muqbil and Shaykh Rabi', Shaykh Ibn Baz, and other than them, from the ulama of this era and from before them. We learn from the ikhwan holding on to one another and loving one another. Well, like ikhwan, you asked the brothers who were in the Masjid with us, if there was one thing Shaykh Muqbil would not tolerate, is somebody speaking about Salafis, disregarding Salafis, denigrating Salafis. Shaykh wasn't about to let that happen. And so we say to you, ikhwan, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with your tongues. Love your brothers for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your brothers who have been at war against innovation for how many years? Introducing many in the West, ikhwan, many of these people, ikhwan, who have all of this kalam, many of them were introduced to the likes of the ulama by way of our brothers. Allah fikum. So there has to be some kind of thanks, some shukr that a person has for those who preceded them. Allah fikum. And this does not mean, of course, ikhwan, we're not talking now about anybody being perfect. Nobody, again, we know we're humans, we have mistakes. Rather, Shaykh Rabi', he mentions in his work, An-Naqt Manhajun Shari'iyun, he said it's not enough for us to say that we're going to make mistakes. He said, no, rather, we always making mistakes. That's our reality. We understand that. But the affair, ikhwan, is that we hold on to our brothers upon the sunnah. We're fighting for the sunnah, defending the sunnah and the people of the sunnah. And if you see, ikhwan, that the brothers have something with them, then clarify. Advise for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What did Shaykh Rabi' say regarding those individuals who are running around in the earth calling the Salafis Jamis and Madkhalis? The Shaykh said, we know the Jama'at al-Tabligh. We know what they have from innovation. We know the Ikhwan al-Muslimin. We know what they have from innovation. We can name it right here. We can throw down the innovations that we have. What do you have against your brothers from innovations? Name the innovations that they have. Name the mukhalafat that they have to the manhaj of the Salaf al-Salih. Name it. Show it to us. Otherwise, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with your tongue. And ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to soften your heart and guide your heart to love the people of the sunnah wherever they are and whoever they are on the earth. And again, that includes our brothers. Wa jazakumullahu khairan. May Allah reward you, ikhwan.